All right, so here's an example, tan of negative 300 degrees. Now, if you think of it, negative 300 degrees is, let's say it's about here. Um, and if we look at this quadrant, we've got the A quadrant. So we know the answer is going to be positive. We know it's going to be positive tan of the acute angle. And the acute angle in this case, we can use this and say, well, 360 minus 60 gives us the 300 with the negative in front. So it's the same as positive tan 60. Oops. And we know it goes 1 on root 3, 1 root 3, so we've got positive root 3 as our answer. Another way to look at that is, which sometimes I find easier rather than looking at that bit, is just to say, all right, it's 300 degrees, so it's gone all the way around to here. It's 300 degrees, therefore this angle must be 60 degrees. We're always looking at the angle. So if it was over in the second quadrant here, we're looking at that angle, we're looking at this angle, we're looking at this angle. So we're always looking at the angle with it makes with the x-axis. All right, let me do another example. Let's just get rid of those. All right. So if we had something like sine of negative 210, where's negative 210 degrees? Well, it's in this quadrant here. We know sine is positive in this quadrant, so I know the answer is going to be positive, and then I just want sine of the acute angle. All right, what's the acute angle? If this is 210, so negative 210, then it is 30 degrees, it makes a 30-degree angle with the x-axis, and sine 30, we know, is a half. All right, what about something that isn't beautiful? So tan minus 215 degrees. All right, where's 215 degrees? So 215 degrees is in this second quadrant over here, which is stations. So therefore tan, we know we're going to get a negative answer. And this angle here, sorry, again, we'd be looking at this angle with the x-axis, if you can tell. So it's looking at, we'd have to add, this would be 35 degrees this time. So that would be 215, yep, so negative 215 degrees. So we're looking at tan 35, but it's in the sine quadrant, so it's a negative. So we get, let's put my equals here, we get negative. We'd have to put tan 35 in our calculators because it's not an exact value. And we would get 0.700. Let's do that to 3 decimal places. Let's do one more. So if I had something like, I'll just get rid of this so we can have room. So, oops, yep, there we go. Right, we can do a few more, we've got room. All right, so let's say we had sec negative 145. So the first thing to remember is sec is the reciprocal of cos. So we know this is going to be equal to 1 over cos, cos negative 145. Now, if we look at the angle negative 145, again, let's just get rid of all this. We don't really need that. We know it already. Sorry. Get rid of that. Nope. There we go. All right. So I will just remember I've got all stations to central. If I look at negative 145, so negative 19, negative 145. So let me put it here. So to get to negative 180, I would have to add another 35 degrees. So that must be 35 there. It's in the T quadrant. So we know cos in the T quadrant is negative. So I already know the answer is going to be negative. Now I can just use the acute angle, which is 35 degrees. Now, really, I can just put that in the calculator. 1 divided by cos 35 is 1.22, so it's a negative 1.22. That's to 2 decimal places. All right, let's try one more example then. There's another one. If I get rid of that. Okay, so if we have something like cosec squared, I should make it negative so it's more exciting. So it's negative 330. So cosec squared of negative 330 degrees is, if I take it slightly, it's the same as cosec negative 330 all squared. That's how trig notation works. So the square is the square of the whole thing. So cosec negative 330. So we know cosec, because of the third letter, is the reciprocal of sine. So we've got 1 over sine of negative 330. Negative 330, there we go. Squared. If we look at negative, the angle negative 330, so we're over here. Yeah, where this angle would be 30 degrees. So you can see that sine will be positive here, and it doesn't really matter because it's squared anyway. So even if it's negative, it's going to end up being a positive answer. So we've got 1 over, it's going to be positive, a sine of 30 all squared. Sine 30 is a half, we know that. So 1 divided by half is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So there's your answer there. So go through each of the examples slowly and just make sure you understand them, then you can ask me any questions.